It has been a long time since I did this. It's been weeks. I don't even know how long it has been, but today I just wanted to come on here. Just a little short, quick bit. There's probably no video for it. It's more like alright, let me record this and going about my day. It's actually 6:11 right now in the morning, and I woke up at 5 something early. I went to bed at like 1 something, and I woke up at 5. Like I was wide awake, and I was like, okay, what's going on? So, and here I am making another one. So, today I wanted to talk more about on the term or the phrase or whatever you want to call this. But it was put in my mind God's timing. And I feel like this is something that's really big that a lot of people have to realize in their certain situations that they may be going through, that sometimes it's just on His timing that things will work out, or that things will get to the end. And sometimes we are in a position where we are waiting on His timing, but we're getting impatient, or we're waiting on His timing and things seem like it's not going to work out. And one thing you have to always remember is God's timing is perfect. It's always perfect. His timing will never fail, and things won't work unless it's on His timing. I know one story that came to mind when thinking about God's timing is the walls of Jericho. If they didn't walk around the 7 days and they would have stopped on the sixth day, then the walls would have not fallen and Jericho would not been given to them. But throughout the time walking around and through that time that nothing was happening, they kept obeying. They kept obeying, knowing that on the seventh day that the walls would fall. And it only happened on God's timing on the seventh day that the wall fell. So you always have to remember that things will happen according to His timing. Another example is with King David. King David was anointed to be king over Israel. And when he was anointed to be king, he wasn't immediately the king afterwards. No, he was sent back to be a shepherd over the sheep. And throughout this story that I read in this this Bible, or in the, I can't even speak right now. But throughout the story of King David in 1 Samuel, you realize that God sent him back into what he was already doing until the appointed time when it was his time to reign over Israel. And that took years before that even happened. And he sent him back. Then he set a distressing spirit onto King Saul. And when this happened, he looked for someone to play the harp. And who did he get? David. And David had to serve under the king who he was supposed to take that crown from and rule over Israel. He had to serve under him. He wasn't immediately given the crown. He wasn't immediately the king. He had to be put back into where he was. Then he had to serve under Saul. Even when Saul tried to kill him a couple times, he still had to serve under him. Until he was even a king in a different area before he was king in the place that God put him, where God wanted him. And some of us have to realize that things are not going to work unless it's on God's timing. And you see throughout this thing, sorry, now you see throughout the scriptures that everything works according to His timing. Nothing is going to work outside of His timing. It's always on His timing. The obedience of us and following His timing. So some of us are out there rushing things like, God, I prayed for this on this day. Why hasn't it happened yet? Or why is nothing working out? Well, it's because you're putting a deadline on something that requires God's timing. Sometimes God will wait until we're prepared before he answers a prayer, or sometimes he'll prepare us to the thing that we are called to. For example, David had to go through a preparation season, and it wasn't until he was prepared and everything fell into place on God's timing that he became king. And there's something that someone shared with me. I'm gonna look for it real quick. Let me see if I can find it. All right, hold on. We're scrolling through it to find it a little bit because it's through a text message. I forgot to save it down. Mm. Someone told me this, and it struck me a little bit, and it was like, wow. God's timing brings forth preparation for. Oh, sorry. God's timing brings forth preparation before your destination. You have to go through a preparation season. God may call you to do something, but he is not going to put you into it unless he prepares you for it, or unless he knows when it's the perfect time for it. God will not put you in a season until you are prepared for it. So if it seems like he is not answering the things right now, it's because he's probably preparing you for it, or preparing the way to it. Not everything is going to happen immediately. Now, there's some prayers that'll be answered right away, but there are a lot of prayers that it's going to take preparation before you can get into it. For example, you may want to be a realtor, and you are praying to be a realtor, but God is putting you through a preparation season before you get placed in that. You may want to be singing in a choir or singing for the church, but God is going to put you in preparation for that, whether that is serving in different areas or not. He's going to put you in positions to prepare you for that. God may tell you, hey, I want you to do this on campus, or do this out here to touch these people. And it may not seem like it's working out right now, and it may seem like it's stagnant, but sometimes it's just the preparation season to what God is going to do. Sometimes he has to test your faith in the preparation season to see if you are going to be able to handle what he is going to put forth for you. Sometimes you have to wait in the preparation season to realize that it was not on your accord, it was on God's accord. And because you waited through that and you saw that it was because of God, then he gets all the praise for what has been done. Sometimes he will wait purposely until it seems like there is no way. Then he will act on that timing, because then you'll see that it was because of him that this flourished. It was because of him that people were touched. It was because of him that things worked out in the perfect way. You have to remember, he always did things in the Bible to get the glory for what was done. If you look in Judges chapter 7, there was, I forgot his name. Hold on, I'm going to look it up because I want to get this right. In Judges, that's not that. Sorry. Gotta find it. Judges. I honestly didn't have anything prepared, and I just hit record, and this is what came to mind. Gideon. The Lord told Gideon that he had too many people to bring into battle. And he told him he cannot bring all of the people that was with them because there was too many for him to get the glory. So he told him to basically cut down the people. And it went from thousands to hundreds, because God knew that if it was only hundreds, that he would get the glory for it, that they would see that it was because of God that they had won. So sometimes God will do things just to wait and show you that it was because of him and not because of you. So sometimes he will wait to prepare you for it, or sometimes he will wait until there seems like there's no way. In that perfect timing, then he will act. Sometimes he'll wait because you are not prepared for what he has called you to do. And so he has called you, but he's putting you through the preparation to bring you to it. And sometimes we get so impatient and we give him deadline that we just think he's not answering. There's been many times where I've seen people called to do something and they don't walk into it until years later. Or they don't walk into it until they are ready for it. And they come back and say, well, I realized that I was not ready for it when I had originally wanted it to be answered. And it didn't take, it took them to realize that they weren't ready for it after the preparation season for what they were waiting for. So we have to remember God's timing is perfect. And it may seem like it's taking long now. But because that's our timing, that's not his. His timing is completely different. And there are so many people out there right now that they prayed something and they felt like, God didn't answer, or they didn't feel like he was going to answer, or it just seems like he was taking for so long, and they kind of stopped believing in him in a way because their prayers weren't being answered. Sometimes he is not going to answer it until the appointed time to answer it. He knows the perfect time to answer it. And sometimes he may just wait just to see how faithful you are. Are you going to keep praying to him about it? Or are you just going to stop believing after a while? And when he does answer, are you going to give him the praise for it? Or you're just going to forget about it and forget about him because he answered it? There's a lot of people that just give up on God because they don't feel like their prayers are being answered. But sometimes he does that on purpose to see if you truly believe in him. And you may be blinded in the fact that he is answering it, but you're not seeing it in the way that you wanted it. Sometimes he'll answer your prayers, but in the way that he knows it will work out. And because it's not in the way you thought it was going to work out, you just think it's not him. For example, you may pray to him, say, Lord, I just want a place to live. And he sends you someone who wants to be a roommate with you. But because you just think that's not him, because you want the place for your own self, you don't realize that it's him answering it for you. Sometimes he answers it on his timing and in different ways that we can't comprehend. But one thing is true. God's timing is perfect. God's timing is never late and it never fails. Sometimes he'll purposely wait to see if you actually trust in him. Sometimes he'll wait until the last minute, until it seems like there's no way to reveal it to you or to answer it, to make you realize, wait, this was God. So one thing I want everyone to take away from this is God's timing is perfect.